There we go. Welcome, welcome. So day 3 of our workshop. It's actually the last day already. So, hey, Terry, hey, Cass. Here. Yeah, so did you have a chance to try the exercises? Did anybody get to ride, or has it been just too cold everywhere? And yeah, let me know if you got to try the lengthening exercise or if you got to try the lateral movements. Oh, Terrace is way too wet here. Yeah, I wish it was wet here too. We need rain. So, yeah, hello, Peppercorn, what up? Hey, Tanya. Yeah, too rainy in the Algarve today, but we didn't get rain. I'm jealous. Oh, Ricky says too cold. Ricky Cummings. Cass is recovering from COVID. Oh, sorry. I've not tried, but I have a ton of notes and list of things to try once I'm back on my guy. That's good. Yeah. Francis is how glad to be here. Tried the enlarged circle tonight into the canter lateral movement as well. Good. Hello, Tavira. Oh, wow. Yeah, we're in Lagos and no rain. No, it sprinkled for like 5 minutes. We had some promising clouds on the horizon, but must have bypassed us. Hey, Laura from Finland, no chance to ride last couple of days. God, it's rock hard, but now it's snowing, so tomorrow night might be nice footing. Tomorrow might be nice footing. Wow. Why do you live there? Harsh living conditions. Yeah, so today we wanted to talk about the counter canter a little bit. It's also one of those movements that are introduced at second level in the US, and then in Germany it's Klasse L. So it's always that step up from the more elementary levels towards the little bit more collected movements. The set try today was good, but difficult to get it more vertical. Yeah, I think you mean the bounce of the step. It's something you do with your pelvis in a sense, with your body. You swing up more. Coming says I intend to revisit these videos when weather permits, maybe not until March 2025. Okay, Ellen says, hello everyone. I rode at the walk yesterday in the cold briefly. She was good with the double serpentine to show the haunches in, better on her hard side. Interesting. Tried her the expanding circle at the walk, just asking for increased energy, and her bend improved more. I'm happy. Well, that's good. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so counter canter, right? It's um, an exercise or movement that is challenging for a lot of riders and a lot of horses because it requires a certain amount of collection. Otherwise, the horse sort of careens around the arena. And the joke that one man's wrong lead in the canter is another man's counter canter, right? So and when you're practicing counter canter, there are really two challenges that you encounter. The first one is, that it may be difficult to get the horse to strike off on the wrong lead. So if you want to ask for the counter canter from a walk or the trot, of course you could kind of get around that if you start a normal canter, true lead canter, and then change direction in the canter, then it's a counter canter. But you can also, or you should also practice up transitions from walk or trot into the counter canter, so the horse can canter on either lead equally well. So that if the horse, I don't know, has never been asked to do a counter canter, or if the horse has been reprimanded for striking off on the wrong lead, for example, then it can become difficult to convince the horse that you actually do want the wrong lead, so to speak. Because in the horse's mind, then it's forbidden and it's not allowed, and then it can be a little bit challenging to get the counter canter. And the other challenge, like once you're in the counter canter, is to negotiate turns at the corners, or if you have to do circles or things like that in the counter canter, then balance becomes an issue, right? So the horse has to have a certain strength in the hind legs. If they're not balanced, then they kind of fall on the outside shoulder, like outside of the bend, which then is the inside of the arena, basically, right? And then they kind of lean and then they scramble, and then you feel like you're careening around the arena on a horse that feels very, very out of balance and very uncomfortable to ride. And it's not especially healthy for the horse's legs, joints, tendons, and so on, if they're very unbalanced in the counter canter. So as a prerequisite for starting to practice counter canter, you should be able to get the correct lead on either rein, so that the horse doesn't pick up the wrong lead or disunited canter, cross canter anymore, but that you can reliably always get the right lead when you ask for it, you get the left lead when you ask for it. And when you're trail riding, you could play a little bit with that and see if you can strike off in the left lead, canter a little bit, do a down transition, prepare, strike off on the right lead, and if that sort of thing goes well, because on a trail, when you're outside, there is no true lead or counter canter unless you're making a turn. But if you're just going straight, then it's left lead or right lead, but there is no inside or outside in that sense of the arena. So if the horse can do that and strike off reliably on either lead, then you can start playing with the counter canter departs in the arena, for example. And you know that for the canter depart, the outside hind leg has to lift the horse's body. So we need to get the outside hind leg well underneath us, and we have to sit on it, flex it, and then we can get the lead that we intend to get. So if you want to canter on the left lead, you have to get the right hind leg underneath you, you have to sit on it, and then you can get the left lead canter. And if you want the right lead, then you have to engage the left hind, sit on it, and then strike off on the right lead, right? Because the walk and the trot are symmetrical gaits. So both hind legs should reach forward under the body evenly, equally far. And the canter is an asymmetrical gait, right? The inside pair of legs reaches more forward than the outside pair. And in order to get from the symmetrical footfall sequence of the walk and the trot to an asymmetrical footfall, like in the canter, you essentially have to slow down the outside pair of legs, and you have to speed up the inside pair of legs. And a pretty simple and effective way to do that is to hold the outside hind leg on the ground a little longer with your body weight. And you can use half holds in addition. And to accelerate the inside hind leg, you can take the weight off of the inside hind leg and you can drive with your inside leg. That's why in Germany we were taught as kids that you ask for the canter depart with your inside leg, because the inside hind leg has to take a bigger step. So that's sort of applied physics. So horses respond to that usually pretty well. If you can flex the outside hind and put your weight on the outside hind and then drive that inside hind leg, then typically the horses will pick up the correct lead. Unless they're very crooked and they're really leaning on that inside shoulder, then you won't be able to get it. So for the counter canter, if you're going on the right rein around the arena, you want to canter on the left lead, that means you would have to take the inside hind leg and bring it under the body, sit on it, change the bend, and then you can ask for the up transition. Horses sometimes find it difficult if you just go straight and then you ask for the counter canter. So there are a couple of tricks, exercises you can use to help with that. So we have we prepared a little exercise graphic again. So let me share the screen. And so here we go. Yeah, so another serpentine. This time it's the single loop, instead of the double loop. And you can ride it in a shallower curve, steeper curve, and so on. So if you want to practice the canter depart in the counter canter, you could ride a shallow loop like this. Just steer the shoulders away from the outside track. Shift the weight to the inside. That sounds familiar. Change the bend, then half vault into that hind leg that's now the outside of the bend. So if we're here going on the right rein, so you would turn the shoulder a little to the right, sit on the right hind leg, half vault into the right hind leg. And then you can ask with your left leg and so on for the counter canter. And then you can canter that line of that loop. And initially, I would probably do a down transition before I get to F. So it's basically you have all that space from M to F. You don't need to ride a very big loop. You can ride it very shallow, and actually I would then recommend that you make it only as steep as you need to get the necessary weight shift so that the horse is able to strike off in the counter canter. And then if you practice it a few times, make your loop shallower and shallower until you stay on the first track, shift your weight onto the inside hind, change the bend, half vault, and counter canter. So then you can use the corner before M here to shift the weight into the inside hind leg. And so that by the time you come out of the corner, the weight is already on the inside hind. You change the bend, half vault, and strike off. So in other words, that loop is just a little tool to help the horse shift the weight and change the bend. And then the more supple they become, the straighter they become, and the more they understand what they're supposed to do, the shallower that loop can become, so that maybe you go from the first track to the second track a couple of times and then make the loop so shallow that the horse just moves basically one horse's width away from the wall and back. And eventually you have the single track. So that would be a good way to introduce the transition into the counter canter. Another exercise that can work really well is that you ride shoulder in, turn on the haunches, and then you end your turn on the haunches when you're in a renvers position on the new lead. And then with a little bit of a renvers position, you ask for the counter canter. That's a pretty good possibility too. So then that would be a walk to canter transition. So by the time you start with counter canters, it would be good if the horse already knew walk to canter transition. So you could do it from a from a trot too, but if the horse is familiar with walk canter and canter walk transition, then they're already a little bit more collected and a little bit more prepared. So the counter canter then is easier to do. So that shoulder in, turn on the haunches, renvers, and counter canter, that's a pretty good method to get the horse into the counter canter as well. Yeah, and then when you can get that canter depart on the straight line, so you don't even have to swerve anymore to the inside of the arena, then you could stay in the canter instead of coming back to the walk or trot at F. You could stay in the canter, and then I would round the corner off, because negotiating turns in the counter canter is difficult, right? So you could leave the long side at the circle point and then essentially ride a 20-meter half circle, right? From the circle point that's next to F, you go to A, and then to the next long side circle point that's next to K. And you could go across the diagonal then at that point, and then you've changed direction, and now your counter canter is the true lead, right? So you can play with these sorts of things. And of course, you could also canter on the true lead, change direction either from one 20-meter circle to the opposite 20-meter circle, or just across the long diagonal, and then ride a half circle at the other end, maybe change direction again. So you're kind of going in and out, or you're striking off in the true lead, change direction, stay on that lead. So it's a counter canter, change direction again. So that's a casual way of introducing the counter canter, and you can use that to practice turns essentially in the counter canter. But you should do both. You should also be able to ride an up transition into the counter canter. So the issue of turning in the counter canter, you could practice with a single loop too. I mean, that's in what first level test 4 in the US, or used to be at least. So that's a convenient way of introducing it. So you canter on the true lead, and then you do your single loop, and then as you're starting to head back to the long side, so as you're heading back to F, here in the drawing, the horse has to basically make a counter canter turn, right? And in that counter canter turn, it's important that the horse doesn't fall onto the outside shoulder. Yeah, it's a typical mistake that happens. A lot of riders also overemphasize the neck bend, because they, in their mind, there's this thought that the horse needs to be bent to the outside in the counter canter. So they overdo the neck bend, and they're neglecting the rest of the body. And then if you overdo the neck bend, you're forcing the horse to lean on the shoulder that's the outside of the bend, so towards the inside of the arena. So it's actually much better if you keep the neck bend really shallow. In the counter canter, you can't even flex the horse's neck and pull slightly to the inside of the arena. So basically the legs are in counter canter, but the head and neck are looking slightly towards the inside of the arena. That helps you frame that outside shoulder. If you have a horse that's a little crooked or so, then that can be a useful correction, essentially. And what I typically do in these counter canter turns is that I step into the inside stirrup, because if the horse's natural tendency is to lean on the outside shoulder, and I want the horse to keep his weight more on the inside pair of legs, I can influence that with stepping into the inside stirrup, and I usually do an inside rear front rear sequence. So it's 3 consecutive strides where I step into the inside stirrup, right? And so inside hind leg is on the ground when my seat gets pulled forward, right? That's the main diagonal. I could use the outside rein together with the inside stirrup. So my rein transfers the weight of the head and neck of the horse and the outside shoulder onto the inside hind leg. The inside front is on the ground in the canter at the deepest, lowest point of the canter stride. That's when your inside knee drops. And if you step rear, front, rear, then you create a rocking motion where the horse feels your weight twice in the inside hind leg and once in the inside front leg. So you're shifting the weight more towards the hindquarters, more towards the inside. And then I drive a little bit with my outside leg, actually, to create more jump, because you need to have the hind legs far enough underneath you in order for the horse to stay balanced. Right? In the counter canter, a lot of horses get a little strung out. The hind legs stay on the ground too long, especially the outside hind leg goes way back, and then they lean on the inside front leg, on the outside front leg. That's on the inside of your turn. So stepping inside, rear, front, rear together with a little outside rein, and then driving with your outside lower leg to create more jump, to bring the outside hind leg more under the body, usually creates a nicely balanced counter canter. Just trying to think, there was something else I wanted to say and it escaped me again. Yeah, so prevent the horse from leaning into the turn. Try to keep the horse upright. Before you begin the turn, you could lift the horse's forehand up more, so you ride the horse more uphill, and that's something you do when the withers come up and the outside hind leg is on the ground. So that's the first beat of the canter stride. You could ask the horse to come up in front by stepping into the outside stirrup, half halting maybe on the outside rein, and letting your own pelvis swing up more, like your own body come up more. So you create room under your seat for the horse's back and withers to come up. So you can lift up and then you start the turn and then step inside, rear, front, rear, drive the outside. Oh yeah, now remember, when you drive with your inside leg in the counter canter, there is a risk that some horses will change leads, especially if they're quick and agile, or if the horses already know flying changes. Then changing leads is often less work than staying in the counter canter, right? So the horses that are familiar with the flying change, they will use it as an evasion if you want to counter canter. Because horses are smart, they go the path of the least resistance. They will do whatever is easiest under the circumstances or requires the least energy expenditure, right? So that's why driving with your outside leg is actually quite effective there. There's no danger of the horse changing leads. Because if you shift your weight really towards the inside pair of legs, and then if you use your outside rein to frame the shoulder and maybe counter bend a little bit, then you're getting awfully close to a jumping off point for the flying change. Then all you need is to move the hips of the horse a little bit in the new direction, and then they change leads, right? So that's why I would drive with the outside leg. Yeah, and of course initially, make your counter canter turns very shallow. So here, when you're in the true lead and you're doing the shallow loop, you can start with a very shallow loop, just first track to second track, back to first track, and then gradually you could make it steeper. Like in the US, you have to go all the way to X for the competitions, right? But it's a 60-meter arena, so. But you could do this in a 40-meter arena too, that you go all the way to X, and then these turns become much more challenging than it's a more pronounced turn. And the tighter the turn in the counter canter, the more balanced the horse has to be, the stronger the hind legs have to be, and the more they have to flex. And then once the horses are at the FEI levels, you should be able to ride through the corner in the counter canter. And that is a serious workout for the hind legs, right? Staying straight and then really going into the corner in the counter canter. That's a highly collected exercise. So yeah, so these would be things that you can play with. Go from simple to complicated, or from easy to more strenuous, more advanced. And let me see. Let me look at comments and questions, and then we can talk about these a little bit. Q&A. Kath McBride says, I have a 17-3 hand 4-year-old. I can pick up the counter canter lead, no problem, struggles with balance in the counter canter, with the result being he gets super unbalanced and races off as soon as we reach the short end of the arena. Any suggestions of exercises I can use to develop his strength so he can better balance. Well, at 4 years old, he's too young for a counter canter. That's he's overfaced with that, especially with a big body. And I mean, a 17-3 hand horse is pretty heavy, so he just needs more time to develop. So I would do regular canter work and trot work, transitions, and so by the time he's, I don't know, 6 maybe, would be a good time for the counter canter. Some horses can do it at 5, but that's pretty fast. So I would wait until they're maybe 6 or so before I would do counter canter work. And if always check, how he feels about things and how well he can balance himself. If you're putting him in a situation where he's not strong enough to balance himself, they can get panicky and they can get traumatized, and some horses may run away. Some horses may start bucking. Some horses will buck in order to avoid falling down when they feel like they might be slipping, or there's a risk of them falling. They buck to get off 4 feet underneath them again. So no fun. It's not necessary. So I would give the horse more time to mature more. And then, it's probably easy, if you wait another couple of years or so, just do the normal trot and canter work. He'll be strong enough in time. Yeah. So I will look at the chat here. Conversations about the weather. Oh, Linda says, what's your view on using leg yield to move the horse in canter? Yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, you can leg yield in the trot from the long side to the center line and then pick up the canter towards the outside, of where you came from. That's a really good preparation for the true lead canter. And once you're in the canter, you can move the horse a little bit like in a leg yield to the inside or to the outside. That's good preparation for flying changes, actually. Keeping the horse's spine parallel to the long side and then moving a little bit away from the outside track. That helps you put weight on the inside pair of legs. You can counter flex a little bit, and then you can easily trigger a flying change by just moving the croup a little out. Like you want to give him a bit of a renvers position, and then if he's supple and balanced, he'll change leads. There's also the plie, which is like a leg yield from the inside leg, so you could turn onto the center line or onto the second quarter line and then leg yield out. It's related to shoulder in too. That's a good exercise to put more weight on the outside hind leg. You have to frame the outside shoulder well so that the horse doesn't drop on it. But if you leg yield from the inside leg and you're not framing the outside shoulder, they really dive on the outside shoulder and then they go more or less straight and no sidestepping. There's no sideways movement anymore. So you have to lift the forehand, move it a little bit away from the line. So you move it towards the inside while you're asking the horse to move towards the outside. And that engages the inside hind leg more. It lifts the shoulders. Horse canters more uphill. It's actually a good preparation for pirouettes in the canter. So so absolutely, it's and you could do little zigzags, right? Move away from the wall, go straight a few strides, move out to the wall, and go straight, and so on. And the horse has to shift the weight from the inside pair of legs to the outside pair of legs, back and forth. That's a really good laterally balancing and straightening exercise. John Mitchell says, where should my seat weight be in counter canter? I always feel like I'm pushed to sit on the outside hind, or which hind is inside of the arena. The horses, especially if they're leaning a little bit, they'll make you sit towards the inside of the arena. I always try to keep my weight more on the inside pair of legs, right? To prevent the tilting. I don't want my horse to turn like a bicycle, so to speak, right? So that's why I step into the inside stirrup, inside in terms of the bend, but it's the leg that's on the outside of the arena, right? And then drive with the leg that's on the outside of the bend. So I help my horse stay upright instead of leaning, and falling on that outside shoulder and looking to the outside. Yeah, so see if you can resist that fall towards the outside of the bend. But if you step into the inside stirrup, drive with your outside leg, half hold with the outside rein, and so on, frame with the outside rein, you should be able to keep the horse balanced. Yeah. Yes, perfect. Thank you. We'll hold off on asking for more of this until he matures more. He's so willing to try things. It's easy to ask too much. It's very true. When you have talented horses that are very generous, you almost have to protect them from themselves, because they will do stuff that they shouldn't be doing yet, and then they can get hurt too. Because the risk of injuries is always the highest with the talented, generous young horses. They can easily then contract career-ending injuries. So whereas the stingy, mediocre horses, they never get hurt, right? They would never exert themselves to the point where they would actually get hurt, right? But the generous, naive, super talented horses, they give you everything, and they give you more than you ask for. And then you often have to say, yeah, very nice of you, but let's keep it simple. So, Francis says we did our zigzags tonight 3 times each rein. It got better fluidity keeping forward, and I could feel the footfalls much better. So we'll attempt the trot tomorrow. Good. Yeah, it's good. Sounds good. Zigzags you can do out on trails. If the arena is too wet or too frozen or whatever, and you can go on trails, you can always zigzag from one, end of the trail to the other, and from one side of the road to the other. So. And Molly says, what works really reliably for me on my warm blood is shoulder in the opposite direction to the planned canter strike off, then 2 stirrup steps into the inside hind in the shoulder in, and change the bend and trigger the canter strike off with my inside leg relative to the new bend. Use this as a standard on hacks, another instance of the shoulder in as a portable corner. Yeah, good point. That's very true. The shoulder in left is a good preparation for the canter on the right lead, and vice versa. So if you want to canter in the counter canter, you could ride a shoulder in, change the bend, which produces a bit of a long position, and then we could do an up transition into the canter. What generally works well too is if you're practicing the true lead canter, that you do shoulder in left, for example, and then turn left, change the bend, canter on the right lead, and turn right. That sort of thing that usually flows really well. So that, because the shoulder in brings that inside hind leg under the body, and then if you ride a turn, you can sit on that hind leg, you can flex it, and then it's like that inside hind leg has to squat, and by changing the bend, you make it into the outside hind leg, and the horse wants to get out of that squat, and then you can use this for the up transition into the canter. So biomechanically, that works really well, and then the horse is grateful that he's allowed to canter, because it makes it feels like a relief. He feels like, oh God, thank you. It's much easier now. I feel a lot better now that I'm cantering. Whereas that shoulder in and then 90-degree turn, for example, is more work. If you do the shoulder in the trot, so yeah. Yeah, lots of possibilities, right? So you can use all these lateral movements that we were talking about on the first day. You can use those to get into the counter canter in a variety of ways, really. So possibilities are endless, right? So yeah. You have any more questions about any of the subjects? Joy Bischoff is my walk to canter transition right lead on a straight line. My mare falls out to her left shoulder, and this I think is also difficult. Counter canter direction. I need to write it again tomorrow to check that you use the single leap loop for counter canter lead. Good. Yeah, if you want to strike off on the right lead and the mare falls out through the left shoulder, then she's probably hollow right and stiff left. Because of the asymmetrical footfall pattern in the canter, there is a bit of a similarity or relationship between canter and haunches and that relationship makes the horses, use the haunches in position to get crooked and to avoid working, equally with both hind legs. So when you ask for a canter strike off, and the horse goes into a bit of a haunches in position, then they typically lean a little on the outside shoulder, and then the inside hind leg is a little bit like your spare tire. It's just sort of idling there next to the body, but it's not doing anything. So what you could do to fix that is that you ride shoulder in on the right, and then turn right and ask for the right lead canter. So if you want to canter on the true lead, then the shoulder in of the same side is beneficial. And if you want to canter on the stiffer side, then shoulder in the other direction works well, right? So you could ride rectangles, for example, in the shoulder in, right? So 10 by 20 meters or so. And then use the shoulder in to engage the inside hind, use the 90-degree corners to bring the outside shoulder and the forehead in front of the inside hind leg. And then you could ask for a canter depart into one of these corners, like shoulder in, turn, and canter while you're in the middle of the corner. And then the horse almost has no chance to get crooked. So, or you could do combinations of lateral movements, like in the hollow direction. You could do counter shoulder in to bring the outside hind leg underneath you, rotate the horse into renvers, then you bring that hind leg of the hollow side more underneath you, and then you could allow the horse to change the bend and ask for the canter. So it's like from a renvers position, you're sitting on that hind leg that's on the outside of the arena, but inside of the bend. And that's hard. Renvers is a hard lateral movement for the horses. But then you could ask the horse to strike off in the true lead, and then the horse will probably be pretty grateful that he's allowed to get out of that renvers in the trot, or you could even do it in the walk too, and to canter on the true lead. And then you have the shoulder moved to the inside. The horse would really love to throw the shoulders out against the wall, and then you can compromise on single track, bend to the inside, and strike off. So that usually is a pretty effective fix for horses getting crooked in the canter part. So, and then if you have mirrors on the short side, it's sometimes really good to practice canter transitions from the walk, from the trot, towards the mirror and ride them so that you only see the two front legs. Then the horse is really straight. Not so easy, right? But it's a really good exercise. Or have somebody watch you, who's somebody behind you or in front of you, and then you ride your dead straight up transition into the canter, and the other person has to tell you how many legs they see. So it's good. It's a little bit of a polishing, refining kind of exercise, but it really pays off. Especially, for your flying changes and tempo changes, you need the horse to be dead straight. Otherwise, tempo changes won't come together, or the flying change will be late in one direction because of the crookedness. Yeah. Hmm. Mike says, what's the simplest way to ask for walk canter? I was taught to use haunches in. You just answered my question. Um, Simplest way. You have to rev the engine a little bit, right? In order for the horse to go from walk to canter, they have to have enough RPMs. They have to have enough energy because it takes energy to, you know, lift into the canter. Belly muscles have to be engaged enough. I like to use exercises to do that. You could do shoulder in at the walk or at the trot and then turn on the haunches at the walk. So if you're trotting shoulder in, you have to come back to the walk, turn on the haunches, and immediately up transition on the other lead. Because then you have that same principle, you engage the inside hind in the shoulder in, you ride a turn on the haunches to really flex it. You change direction with a turn on the haunches, so now inside is outside, right? And that hind leg that was the inside in your walk pirouette or turn on the haunches is now the outside, and then you can use that flexion to do an up transition and canter. So that works really well, typically. And if you do this a few times back and forth, also then canter, walk, turn on the haunches, canter in the other direction, that tends to rev the engine a little bit. It tends to wake the horses up, so they give you a little bit more energy. You can practice walk canter transitions in a haunches in. That's a good way to develop a collected canter. So, and then, it's like one person's crooked canter is another person's haunches in canter that they do on purpose, right? There's always the, I don't know, involuntary haunches in. That's gymnastically not so useful because the horse is leaning on the outside shoulder. And then there's the gymnastically valuable haunches in canter where the majority of the weight is on the inside hind leg, right? And you can ride also squares or rectangles with that. And then it's a good workout for the inside hind leg. That's already a little bit more higher math, so to speak, higher maths. But it's a good strengthening exercise for the inside hind leg. You can ride this on a circle, you can ride haunches in on a circle, walk canter, 3 canter strides, walk, 3 canter strides, walk. Or you can do it on a rectangle or square. So you could do haunches in canter on the sides of your square or rectangle and walk, ride the corner at the walk, and then maybe do this corner as a quarter pirouette in the walk, and then canter in the haunches in walk pirouette, and then you switch it. Then you do haunches in the walk on the straight lines. Then just before the turn, you ask for the canter, you ride a quarter pirouette in the canter. And then when you get to the next side of your square or rectangle, walk into the inside hind leg. Always in haunches in. You always stay in the haunches in, right? And then up transition from haunches in the walk to a haunches in canter, quarter pirouette, walk transition, and so on. So that's more FEI level work then. But you can see that kind of the progression, right? How you can start with something that seems pretty innocent and simple, right? And then it escalates, so to speak. So those of you who have upper level horses, you can play with those things, right? And those, you have the younger horses, you will get there to these upper level exercises just by doing the progressive gymnastic training, like daily chopping wood and carrying water kind of work, Yeah. Counter canter is also a good launch pad for pirouettes. If you ride a counter canter on a circle, you can do a nice pirouette to the outside. You usually get a good one. Or yes, if you want to kind of think a little ahead, you can go counter canter on the long side, plie away from the wall, and then you have one horse's length distance, you pirouette to the outside. That gives you really nice pirouettes too. With that counter canter plie away from the wall, you get the horse uphill, you get the inside hind leg underneath you, and then you can turn the shoulders, and then you get a really nice tight turn, especially if the space is limited, then the horse knows I better sit and turn, otherwise I'm gonna bump my nose into the wall, you know. So yeah, so endless possibilities, right? that involve the counter canter. Traditionally, in classical dressage, counter canter was always considered to be a straightening exercise because, of course, if you're cantering whole school, the haunches can't swing to the inside of the bend because the kickboard is there, right? So you could move the shoulders a little bit towards the wall, and it's like a counter shoulder four positioning, counter canter. You know, so that's a good simple, just around the arena, counter canter, shoulders a little towards the wall and so on. So the horse is straight, can be a good straightening exercise, and then the normal true lead canter should feel better afterwards. Oh, he says, thank you, I agree. I'll be watching these again and again. What fantastic teaching and info. Thank you. Yeah, it's fun, right? It's yeah, once you can start playing with these things, then you have all these options. You know, it's like a kid in a candy store. Yes, what prizes do you have any training courses, books that walk one through the various gymnastics exercises and their progression as the horse matures? Well, we have a whole bunch of online courses, right? We are now launching our level 2 what, why, how course that opens, the registration opens tomorrow. So there we'll be talking, of course, about the same topics as we have just talked. But yeah, so basically like second level in USDF, second level kind of realm, introducing lateral movements, introducing medium trot and canter, introducing counter canter. So we don't go very high up with these. We have a canter course, we have a flying changes course that go a little bit, you know, more advanced. So lots of, yeah, arena GPSs, these are ebooks. We have a series of ebooks with lots of exercises, and there are some pretty advanced ones in there too. So there you can choose. Oh, Joanne says, what about how level 1 was excellent, cannot wait to start level 2. I'm also in straightness course. Yeah, good. Yeah, perfect. Should be fun. I'm just trying to think if I forgot anything, but if you have any more questions. Oh, Jenny says, are there any plans for top line makeover to return? Probably next year, I would think. After check with Shanna. Shanna makes the schedule, and we're starting, you know, to offer more courses also as self-study courses. So then you can start whenever. You know. Aaron says, thank you. Your descriptions are very helpful. Well, thank you. It's nice of you. Because I still have to finish level 1, but my gelding passed away unexpectedly this year. I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, you don't have a horse at the moment. Yeah, it always leaves a big gap when you have a nicely trained horse. Huh? So it's always difficult to replace a good horse. Yeah. It says this workshop is a look into the future for me and my horse. It's good. Working on trot to canter transitions. I like the idea of inside hind loading before departure. I will play with it. Right now we're true cantering with 1 speed. Yeah. So it's you're loading the hind leg that will be the outside one in the canter. So if you're loading the current inside hind, then I would change direction. And actually, canter departs, especially from the trot, work really well if you change direction and then ask for the new lead canter immediately after, as soon as you're on the new lead. There's a whole bunch of exercises for that too, and they kind of maneuver the horse. It's change of direction maneuvers the horse into the right balance for the up transition. So it usually flows pretty easily. And if you do it from the trot, then there's a little bit of momentum going. There's a little bit of energy behind it, and not so difficult for the horse to get into it. Unless you have a horse that's very strong behind and very pushy and gets very fast, then I would try walk to canter transitions rather than trot to canter transitions. The very strong horses that get very fast, they just push too much. And if you do a walk canter transition into a smaller space, then it's more like weightlifting for them, and they have to really sit and lift the forehand up, and then you have a better chance of getting a good canter depart. Whereas if you have a horse that tends to get behind the aids, then it's better to do the up transition from a relatively big trot and into an open, inviting space, because otherwise they suck back more, they get more behind the aids. If you try to do a walk, canter, depart into a tiny area, then the horses that tend to suck back will suck back even more. Yeah. Right, so thank you. Your ability to break down some pretty technical concepts into understandable descriptions of how to achieve them is awesome. Thank you. I've been thinking about this a lot over the years. And I needed that breakdown for myself, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to learn how to do them. I wasn't the biggest talent, so I had to really analyze things and explain them to myself and break them down into little pieces, and then I could learn it, I could figure it out. But without the analysis, you wouldn't have gotten anywhere. So. Yeah, Francis says Herbie pushes too much. Oops, walk canter. He's much more balanced and slower. Yeah, he's a pretty powerful horse. So for some horses, even though walk to canter is a much more difficult transition than trot to canter, at least in theory, for some horses it's easier to get into a balanced canter from the walk. Yeah, if you have a strong horse, lots of pushing power, but yeah, not as much carrying ability yet. So then that walk to canter transitions would also be a good way to build strength in the hind legs. So it's not only then a tool to improve the canter and the canter depart, but it's also then really a muscle builder also for the flexor muscles for the carrying ability. Lorelai says, when using haunches in for walk to canter, should I weight the inside or the outside seat bone? Yeah, that's a good question. In the haunches in, I would sit on the inside hind, but for the up transition, I would lift my inside seat bone, briefly load the outside hind, ask for the canter. As soon as the first canter stride is there, shift the weight back to the inside. Because if you ride haunches in and you sit on the inside hind and then you try to canter, it could be that the horse won't be able to do a canter transition, or it could be that he's disunited, or you get a counter canter or something. So for the up transition, briefly sit on the outside hind and then right back to the inside as soon as the canter is there. That tends to work pretty well. Okay, so thank you. I will practice. She's more on the strong end with energy. Yeah, good. Linda says, I need help to start training my 17-2 hand horse. I have a great coach who would like to integrate with a wisdom. Which course should I aim for? So is he a green horse? Are you just starting him? Then for that we have a young horse course that basically young. So it starts at the point where the horse can be ridden off the lunge line, right? So it's not the whole starting process, but it's once the horse is going on the saddle and you can ride around the arena a little bit in the walk and trot at least, then this young horse course explains, how to introduce like simple, sidestepping exercises, simple, lengthenings, canter departs, and so on. So basically from the moment they come off the lunge line to roughly first level in the US, or Klasse A in German, so that basically sort of ends where then level one of what, why, how would start, or they overlap a little bit. And then once that young horse course material is really confirmed, then you could do the what, why, how level two with a horse. Martin this is from Georgia. When will you book systematic training for flying changes be out? Oh, we have an online course about that. It's a book manuscript, and we have essentially given up on that. But the online course is available, and all the information is in there. Yeah, so I don't know if we'll ever print the book now that we have the course. He says information provided is excellent. I'm meeting to attend. Oh, thank you. Let's see. Says another shout out for the What by How. It's amazing. I've done most of Ritter courses and you won't go wrong with any with What by How is found for a young course. Also the top line course. Yeah, top line makeover is all groundwork, lunging, double lunging, work in hand, and long ranging. Simple, not terribly advanced work in hand. We have a more advanced work in hand course that you can do after the top line makeover. Yeah, then a young horse course is, like I said, for early stages of training after the horse has been started under saddle. Yeah, so yeah, we have a library now in the meantime. And before I forget, I should drop the link for the everyone have to drop the link for the what, why, how course level 2. So if you're interested, you can just look at the registration page. Linda says, where can I register for the what, why, how? Click on the link that I just dropped, and there you can read through it, and there are links to register, and then tomorrow Shannon will send an email inviting you. Because this is where Shannon, we miss her. I know, I miss her too, but she's sort of sick. Somebody brought the flu to us, one of the people who work for us, and then Amira got sick, and then Shanna got sick, and then Dylan got sick, and I'm the only one who's still alive. So Shanna had to work a lot on this registration page for the course, and then so she's fading. She's been working really hard, so she needs to rest a little bit. Yeah. Well, any more questions about any of the 3 topics from the last 3 days? This is, thank you, super helpful, best wishes. Good health, I know. Inka says, I'm so sorry, I wish you gute Genesung. I hope she'll be well soon. Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah. And says, you're amazing. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, yeah, hopefully this is helpful information for you. Yeah, when you get a chance to ride, yeah, see if you can play with some of these exercises and concepts. Some of them you can do out on trails, like all these loops. They can be pretty easily applied to riding on, logging roads or trails or whatever. Yeah, so hopefully you'll be able to try it soon. Hopefully, it's not too frosty and icy. No, that's very helpful. Can't thank you enough. Happy holidays, everyone. Hope lots of riding. Oh, hey, Adjo. Says thank you very much, Thomas. As always, it was very interesting. Yeah, yeah. Well, you don't have to fight the ice and the snow, so you could try some of these. So your arena should be perfect. It says muito obrigada for the 3 days. Amazing. Boas festas. Yeah. Happy holidays. Exactly. So yeah, so look out for Amira's, Shanna's um, email for tomorrow, where she announces the What by How Level 2 course. And yeah, so then you can, there'll be a link again for the registration, and you can look a little bit what's in it and stuff. It's interesting stuff. It's lots of good, lots of useful information, lots of exercises to work with. Cass says indoor heated arena here in northern Canada. Oh, lucky you, that's good. Yeah, Terry says what by how level 1 is also available again with level 2. Yes, and you can do level 2 without having done level 1 first if you like. Oh, Joanne says my only regret with Twitter courses is that I didn't join earlier. So many years I could have been working correctly. Well, the courses have only been around since 2017, right? Before that, we didn't have them yet. But you have them now. Now there are lots of courses to choose from. So now you can pick a topic that interests you and yeah, do the course, and hopefully they'll help you. And then if you do them all, that's like a mosaic with lots of bits and pieces that eventually form a bigger and bigger picture and a more complete picture, over time. So, and flow. Vernon says so much to try after these 3 sessions. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, let me know in the Facebook group if you got a chance to practice and what you have observed and what happened and so on. That'd be interesting to find out. So, oh, Beverly Slack. Hey, Beverly says, what about how's an amazing course? Happy Christmas, everyone. Yeah. Yeah, Merry Christmas, happy holidays. So can't believe it's already Christmas almost. Crazy. Of course, here it doesn't look like Christmas in the Algarve. It's a little chilly, but everything's green, no snow. So no snowman. So saw a Q&A. There are a few things. Heather Williams, please would you talk a little more about avoiding the neck bend in the counter canter, one key thing to help. Yeah, you just have to watch your outside rein, that you keep that close to the neck. I always like touching the neck with the outside rein and keep that really close so that you don't give the horse any chance to tweak the neck and overbend. And forget your inside rein a little bit. Don't touch it. So, because it's so easy to overuse the inside rein. So sometimes it's actually useful to just release the inside rein, make the neck totally straight or even counterflex a little bit, and then you can take contact with the inside rein again, but just check on yourself, how much is the horse bending at the neck or in the paw, which part of the neck is participating, and really you want a stable connection from the shoulders to the base of the neck, and then the top can curve a little bit. The base of the neck should be relatively stable. Otherwise, you get push out over the outside shoulder. So Überstreichen on the inside rein would be good. Yeah, so that's a good test of whether you were pulling the neck to the inside. So that's a good little thing. You could, for example, do the Überstreichen and pet the horse's neck with the inside hand, because for that you have to disconnect the rein, right? And then you can gently take the contact again. So yeah. It says my wombat is a 2, his hollow left, so his left lead canter is his chocolate side. Yeah. The left front is also historically the leg in which his arthritis gives him the most trouble. So I try and ride left lead canter on less challenging bits of track where the going is more even. If I'm looking for a right canter strike off, and sometimes I find his butt slipping off to the right. So we then end up doing a full pass and trot at right angles to the Jeep track. Well, I always wondered why this happens. It's always full pass to the right. What you're saying is that he's doing this to avoid weighting the weakest hind leg and the left hind. I mean, if he's hollow left and you want to canter on the right lead, the left hind leg has to lift him up. If he doesn't feel like that left hind leg is strong enough, then he might try to do funny things to avoid that. And could be that the running to the right basically means he's transferring the weight onto the right side of the body, away from the left hind leg. So it could be that that's his rationale. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the process. Huge thank you for these 3 days of information. I've learned lots of golden nuggets to try with my guide to help him continue to develop. Also wanted to say your depth of knowledge and quiet delivery style is amazing. Oh, thank you. I'm blushing. Thank you so much. If you're ever in Western Canada teaching, hopefully I can come and take some lessons. Yeah. It's unlikely. I really like it here. I don't want to travel. I used to teach clinics for many years and fly all over the place, and so I'm glad I don't have to do this anymore. But maybe I don't know, at some point, I'll do a clinic here or there, but not every weekend anymore, like I used to. Oh, Pat said we have 15 centimeters of snow. Welcome to it. Yeah. Snow wouldn't be so bad if it weren't cold, right? If it was, 20 degrees and snow, that'd be awesome. So, Hella says, how long are the recordings available? I think they're generally available until like early January, I think, and then we'll take them down. But if you are a VIP member of the workshop, then you get to keep them forever. So I guess it's snow with that cold as rain. I know it's a design flaw. So Janice says, thank you so much. Everything has been so helpful and informative, perfect for where I am with my horse right now. Awesome. That's great. Natasha says, if your horse is hollow on the left side, which is his weaker leg? Well, I always think that the hind leg on the hollow side is weaker because it tends to move next to the body. So it avoids having anything to do with the weight. And the weight is really what strengthens the hind legs, right? Having to support the weight, flex under the weight, push the weight. And so that it's like weightlifting for the hind legs. But if one hind leg is always sort of next to the body, then it just pretends, but it's not really working. And the hind leg on the stiffer side that often doesn't step far enough under because the other hind leg is not supporting long enough for the hind leg on the stiff side to really come all the way through. But it has to, but the horse is leaning a little on that side, so the legs on the stiffer side tend to have to carry or support a larger share of the body mass, and then hind leg on the stiff side has to push a lot. And you can look at the horse's croup from behind, look at the muscling. Very often, like if you have one fuller croup and one a little bit flat croup, that flat side is usually the hollow side, and the fuller one is usually the stiffer side. Unless there's something else going on, like an old injury or so. But yeah, the horse tends to lean towards the stiffer side, which is why the muscling is usually bigger on that side. Yes, just as much as I prefer not to have the snow, it's actually the cold I dislike. Yeah, me too. We need the moisture to prevent the fires we deal with every year. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Because as you can see, the hollow side and the shoulders as well. It's true, the shoulder on the stiffer side usually has a little bit bulkier muscling, and on the hollow side, it's usually a little flatter. That's sort of the standard distribution. I mean, there are horses that have an S curve that messes things up a little bit. And sometimes if a horse had an injury in the past and then adopted some protective posture that can mess up the distribution of the hollow and stiff side symptoms, so not every horse is very clean cut, but a lot of them are. Yeah. Um, Well, then if you have questions, let me know. If not, we'll wrap it up, I guess. I mean, it was a nice 3 days. It was fun. You can always also ask questions in the Facebook group and tag me, so I see it. So we can always continue chatting there. The group will be around also, I think, until the course starts in January. I think January 3rd is the starting date for the course. That's off to shovels now. Wow. Sorry. Francis has been great, addictive again. Yay, that's good. Penny says, thank you as always, Tom. Some light bulb moments and lots of inspiration. Good, good. I'm glad. It's nice if you can leave the meeting and look forward to writing. You know, it's like, yeah, I want to try this. That's always great if you have a new idea or two. Yeah. Well, then thank you. Thank you all for watching. Check out the link. I can drop that again here. See what the course is all about. Look for Shanna's email tomorrow, and then we'll see you soon, hopefully. Oh, and says vielen Dank. Frohe Weihnachten. Yeah, frohe Weihnachten. So yeah, thank you, and hopefully we'll see you soon.